Welcome to the Otherweb. Our guest today is Nicky Billou, a best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, and an expert on thought leadership. Nicky is the host of the #1 podcast on thought leadership, The Thought Leadership Revolution, where he has interviewed people like Barbara Corcoran, Scott Adams, and astronaut Chris Hadfield. We reached out to Nicky to get his thoughts on what it takes to be valuable and contribute useful ideas to people's lives. Nicky, welcome to the show.
Alex, thanks for having me. Awesome to be here, man.
Awesome to have you. So I have a very simple question to start. What is a thought leader?
What a great question, And before I get into it, though, let me tell you my backstory. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, he and my mom, they could see the writing on the wall. This was not going to be a place to raise a Christian family. So they made a plan and they got us out of Iran. And eventually we settled where I now live in Toronto, Canada. Now, when I was 11, I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends. But looking back now, what an incredible thing they did for me and my brothers. They took us from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom. And as a result, I have become a philosopher of freedom, a champion for freedom. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you don't understand the link between freedom and success as an entrepreneur, you're missing something crucial and important. Without freedom, there's no free enterprise. Without free enterprise, you cannot be an entrepreneur. So to me, we all need to value freedom. And especially today in the West, where you see all this craziness coming from these crazy people that are trying to censor what you can say or think and do, more important than ever for us to be champions for freedom. Now, my father, he was an entrepreneur as well, and he was a believer in freedom. If you knew him, Alex, you were looking for work, Dad would sit you in his office, call all his entrepreneur buddies until one of them hired you. He'd just pester them until one of them hired you. If you were trying to start a business, he'd sit down with you, help you make a plan, help you get access to capital, help you get clients. If you were trying to buy a car or a house and the bank wouldn't give you quite enough money, he'd give you a loan and he'd never let you pay it back. And you might think to yourself, hold on, wait a minute, who does that? Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, for one. Why? First of all, he was a devout Christian. He believed that it was his duty to share his blessings with other people. But secondly, he did it because he was successful. He was rich. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to help people. My dad would go around telling me every day, son, remember, life isn't about money, it's about people. Business isn't even about money, it's about people. I go, Dad, what are you talking about? I'm 8 years old. I'm super smart, right? Dad, come on. Without money, you can't do business. Look at me. I'm so smart. No, son, that's true. But without people, there's no need for money and there'll be no business. Remember that person in front of you. That's someone's father. That's someone's brother. That's someone's son. That's a hero to somebody. That somebody is important to someone else. And maybe someone just like you ripped them off. It's your job to restore his belief in human beings. Remember, every human being needs someone to believe in them, someone to love them, someone to care about them. Everybody needs someone to say, I see you, I believe in you. And it's your job to do that. And when my father passed away, he passed the Billou torch to me. I'm really good at thought leadership. I'm really good at speaking, at writing, at powerfully enrolling people with incredible promotional and marketing aspects. But my greatest strength is I'm my father's son. I believe in people. I love people. I am there to help people win and live the best version of their life possible. And my dad, this is one thing he always said to me. Most people in business, they have good intentions, right? But they don't know business. They're not good at sales. They're not good at marketing. And I saw that. And he said, if you are, teach them. So I went to teach people how to be better at sales and marketing. Most people are scared of sales. They think, oh my God, I don't want to be seen as pushy. I don't want to be one of those guys, those people with commission breath reeking from them when they come in the room. And that, as a result, they don't go after business they should go after, right? That's bad because they don't get that business. It's bad for the client because the client doesn't get the help they need. But it's also bad because some dishonest charlatan will come there, scoop up the business, and they don't care whether they do anything for you or not. The sum total of goodness in the world goes down. So I learned from my father, teach people how to rethink how they look at sales and business. It's not selling, it's serving. Imagine that, brother. You don't want to be sold by anybody, but don't you love being served by somebody? Don't you love it when someone cares about you and tries to do their best for you? Everybody loves that. And I just teach people to reframe sales to service. That's the first step of thought leadership. It's not about you, it's about them. If you make it all about you, you're going to be worried about how you're going to look. If you make it all about the person you're trying to help, all you're going to think about is how much you can help them and how good a job you can do. And just teaching people that has helped so many of my clients double, triple, quadruple their business. I had a woman, she was a doctor of natural medicine. She came to see me and she says, I want to grow my business, Go, okay, you do well already. She goes, yeah, I do about 100,000 a year, but I want to do $1 million a year. Why? Because you know what? My father, he was an entrepreneur. He died of brain cancer. I want to honor him by being a successful entrepreneur. That's very noble, very lovely. I said, okay, but what do you need to do first? She says, well, I don't know. I don't want to be seen as pushy. I said, but do you mind serving people? Do you mind loving? Oh, I love doing that. I said, okay, talk to people from a service mentality. Just doing that, brother, she fourfolded her income in 1 year. 1 year. 4 times. Incredible. A thought leader is a heart leader too. They come from the heart. They care about the other person. Always remember, it's all about them. It's not about you.
And so I love your story and I can relate to several parts of it. My family also left the place just before it went boom. It was the Soviet Union in 1990. So I can certainly relate to that part. Being an engineer, I come from a market in which there are a lot of people who just want to lock themselves in the basement and work without ever talking to other human beings.
Yes.
Right? And thought leadership is kind of used as a recommendation to all tech entrepreneurs, essentially, to get out there and actually share your knowledge with the world. And it doesn't come naturally to us, right? But it seems, at least to me, that this is distinct from sales. And it is distinct in some sense from actually doing the work. It is the sharing, the communicating part, and one-to-many, not just one-to-one. So help me understand how these different pieces combine.
Well, let me do it by telling you a really powerful story. So I had a gentleman. He was a executive vice president for many years for a manufacturing company. His name was Carl Kramer. Unfortunately, he died a year and a half ago in the summer from cancer. Very, very sad story. But Carl was successful when he was an executive vice president. He made a lot of money, $350,000 a year. But he was sick of it. He was burned out, so he quit to become a business coach, right? And here was the problem. His income dropped by 80%. Think about this, 80% drop in your income, Alex. That's terrible, right? And he's coming to me, he's going, Nicky, man, I love what I do, but I need to make the kind of money I used to make. I go, okay. So tell me, Carl, what do you do? Well, he said, well, look, I'm a business coach. I know how to do this. I can help people with this. I can help people with that. I can help people with the other. I'm like, stop, Carl. People's eyes are going to go in the back of their heads. They're going to get so bored. They're not going to listen to you. You can't talk that you can do this, that, the other. Nobody cares what you do. What they care about is what can you do for them? For them. Put the attention on them. So, Carl, what's something you're really good at and you're really passionate about? He says, well, one of the things I'm really good at is scaling and growth. I'm like, okay, that's a real area of expertise, a real area of thought leadership. Great. Scaling and growth. Tell me, have you been able to do this for other people? He goes, oh yeah, when I was in my manufacturing business, I did this, I did that, I did the other. We grew our business by hundreds of millions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. You have the skill set. So who can you do this for? Well, I can do this for everybody. You don't want to do this for everybody. If you try to be all things to everybody, no one's going to listen to you. You got to narrow your focus. So we helped him narrow his focus. And if you want to be a thought leader, you need to narrow the area of expertise that you have. You can't say, I am good at all things technology engineering. I'm good at all things when it comes to sales. I'm good at all things when it comes to business. No, focus. So scaling is an area of focus. Secondly, we focused on a group of potential business owners that he could help. He picked lawyers. It wouldn't have been my choice. I'm not a big fan of lawyers myself. I'm just kidding, guys. But that was his choice. He wanted to work with lawyers. So he worked with lawyers that had no partnerships. Just one lawyer was the owner. And his promise was, I'm going to show you, if you have $1 million practice, how to make it a $3 million, $5 million practice. Anyways, long story short was, once he did this, he started to put out lots of good information and content about how he could help them do that. And before you knew it, he started to make more money. Within 6 months, He wasn't just making $350,000 a year, which is what he wanted to do, make what he used to make. He was making $500,000 a year, only working 20, 25 hours a week. He contemplated working harder to make more money. He did it for a couple months, said, no, I don't want to do that. I'll go back to working 20, 25 hours a week, making $500,000 a year. Now that, my friend, is an example of thought leadership. And you might go to yourself, okay, Nicky, well, how does that work? Well, first of all, this guy had real expertise. He had a background. He was somebody who had done things that had been valuable. He wasn't one of these influencers who just goes on social media and goes, I do this, I do that. Well, they don't know anything about anything. You know what I mean? It was real. It was a steak. Yep. It wasn't just the oil and the sizzle that comes up when you cook the steak, right? It was real, deep, juicy steak. Secondly, he understood that he needed to narrow his focus. Commercial thought leadership is different from academic thought leadership. In academic thought leadership, a lot of people want to go wide, but in commercial thought leadership, it's important to go narrow. Narrow, narrow, narrow. So Carl went narrow in his focus. As a result of this, he was able to attract people, because people who were lawyers, who were solo practitioners, didn't have partners, and wanted to grow, like they had to be hungry for growth, they could see this was the guy who had a proven track record of helping other lawyers scale and grow. That's what allowed his thought leadership to be successful. When I teach thought leadership, what I say to you is, what makes you a thought leader? Well, you got to be an expert first, but an expert isn't enough. There's lots of experts who are invisible. Nobody knows who they are. You got to be an expert who's professionally famous, who's known for what you know. If you can do that, and there's a whole art and a science to doing that, it doesn't happen overnight. That's when thought leadership becomes beautiful. That's when thought leadership helps you make a lot of money.
All right, so let me try to use a hypothetical example, and we'll see if I got this right. So let's say that we have a guy who is really good with AI. He's good at training models. He knows how to use models. He knows their limitations, etc. What you're saying is he shouldn't just start the podcast talking about AI in general and what's new. He should start the podcast that explains to journalists how to write better articles with AI, as an example. And then his thought leadership is useful to a particular group of people. Is that correct?
You got it. Because if all you do is you talk about AI, there's a gazillion people that are going to be talking about AI right now. And let's say, you know what, he wants to work with journalists, right? But he puts his AI out there. First thing is, as a topic, AI is right now kind of hot. So a lot of people are going to go, okay, let me check it out. But once they get on there and there's no specificity to how AI is useful for them, they're going to check out. They're going to leave. Right. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, AI isn't going to be that hot a topic anymore because everybody and their brother is going to be talking about AI. So no one's going to come check him out then. If he says, I do a podcast on AI, they're going to go, that's nice. And their head is go, why does this matter to me? Because that's all anybody cares about. The first question they're going to ask themselves when they see you, your content, your messages, how does this matter to me? And if the answer is not instantly obvious, they're going to leave. And part of good thought leadership, part of good marketing is you need to repel as well as attract. The people that you don't want should not have anything to do with you. The people that you do want should be very interested in having everything to do with you. That's what made Carl successful. You think about Carl's example, yeah? Carl was a guy who had been successful, but he was done with his old life. He wanted a new life, and he created a new life, but it wasn't making him enough money. His vision was, how do I make enough money and do something that I love? And when he was able to marry that with a strategy of thought leadership, beautiful things happen for him.
Right. So I can definitely see how that works for somebody whose primary job is consulting, right? Because you're a thought leader in a particular field, and essentially what you do as a consultant then is just an expansion of that and allowing you to go deeper into one particular case. Can it be done if you run a startup and not a consulting company? Can it be done if you're just an engineer and your day job is doing something slightly different?
So look, it's a little bit different if you are a founder of a company. Okay, let me address that first, because if you're a founder of a company, what you're interested in doing is you're interested in attracting people to your company. There are three types of people you want to attract. First of all is customers, obviously, right? You want customers, super important. But secondly, it's employees. You want to attract great employees to your company if you're a startup founder, and then you want to attract investors. Those are three very discrete and distinct audiences, and you need to finesse how you speak about what you do to each of them a little bit, but the main messaging needs to be the same. If you're the CEO of a startup company, the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating thought leadership around you. You. Think about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has founded several companies, right? He was one of the original PayPal founders. He founded SpaceX. He's founded Tesla, Neuralink, and Starlink. All these companies, right? Boring, blah, 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 blah. He's bigger than any one of these companies. What is his thought leadership? If I say to you, Elon Musk, what's the first thing that you say you admire about Elon Musk? Just one thing.
Industriousness, getting things done.
Getting things done. Okay, great. That's very good. Most people would say that too. Another thing they would say is he's a genius. This man sees far into the future and he comes up with ways to help make human beings' lives better in a future-focused way. So that's the Elon Musk thought leader brand. You with me? Now, Alex Fink,
Yep.
Maybe you don't want to be Elon Musk. Maybe you don't want to found 11 companies and run them. But maybe you have one company that you want to found, or you have founded, and you want that company to be the company that's known in a certain way. I would tell you, if you were my client around thought leadership, because I've worked with a lot of founders as well, I'd say, Alex, we're not going to do an infomercial for your company. That's not going to work. We need to tell your story. What is it that makes Alex unique? So first and foremost, there needs to be a very powerful backstory of why you're so passionate about what you're passionate about when it comes to the world of your work. We need to talk about how this matters to you beyond, making money. Let me be honest with you. Nobody cares that you want to be rich. That might be important to you, but nobody out there is going to listen to you tell a story about, I was born one day in the old Soviet Union. I came to America. I wanted to be a billionaire. I became a billionaire. Yes, 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 yes. Nobody cares. Nobody. You know what they care about? They care about your personal story in so much as it inspires them to be better about what they're doing. So if they're a customer, your personal story touches them in such a way that they go, wow, I'm interested in what this guy's products are. Let me go buy some. If they're a potential employee, go, wow, this Alex dude, he's amazing. I got to work for him. I'm going to go work for his company. If they're an investor, they go, this guy, Alex, he's pretty smart. He's coming up with some new ways to do some things. I have $100,000, $1 million, $10 million to invest. Let me go talk to him. And it's got to be focused around you as a CEO and a founder of a brand. We call it like a CEO brand, a founder brand. That's important. Now, when it comes to someone being an individual in an organization, I'll be candid with you. I don't really work with individuals at organizations from a thought leadership point of view. But if they were asking me a question, hey, Nicky, how do I become a thought leader while being an employee at another company? I would say to them, you need to build your personal brand about what you're all about, what you do that's new, cool, exciting, and you need to publish it out there. So maybe you create a podcast of your own. Maybe you become a guest on 100 podcasts. Maybe you write a book and you get that book published and you put it out there and you go speak on shows. Maybe you go speak at conferences. But the first thing you got to do is you got to get really clear about what your area of expertise is. You got to get really, and this is part of the stuff that we teach people to do in our training programs, is how to get all that done in a very structured format. Then you got to put it in the form of content that is valuable to other people. If it's just interesting to you, you're not a thought leader.
All right. So speaking of that person who wants to build a personal brand, I understand thought leadership is one thing they could pursue. What are other ways in which a person can build a personal brand that will essentially serve them for years to come?
Well, to me, honestly, I think thought leadership encompasses more than a personal brand rather than the other way around. Personal brand is a small component of thought leadership, right? I'm less interested in someone being like an influencer. That's not an area that I take a lot of time to, find out how people get followers and likes. I'm a lot more interested in how somebody takes the expertise that they have and turns it into something that's valuable commercially. So to be honest with you, if you're interested in having a conversation about how to be an influencer, it's not really something I can do. or I'm interested in doing. But from a thought leadership point of view, another thing that's super, super important for an individual is for them to try to understand how that thought leadership can really be of service to more people. All right. And the way to do that is it's got to be all around solving problems. To me, having a thought leader brand is all about what is the problem in life or in business that you are most excited about helping people solve. And if you can answer that question and answer it well and powerfully, man, you're gonna have a lot of people who are interested in you, in what you do. They're gonna want to be your clients. If you own a company, they're going to want to potentially be employees. They're going to want to invest in your company. That's what makes you interesting to people as a thought leader.
Right. You mentioned a few things that I observe around me quite a bit, and it's not always done ethically. And I know you are very concerned with ethics. And so what words of caution would you have for people who just think, oh, I'll pick people who have a problem and I'll propose solutions that sound good, but that may not actually make their life better. And I can use many examples of people selling various diets to those who really want to lose weight, right? And so they have a problem. But most of the solutions we see right now on the internet are just, I don't even think the people promoting them believe in them. It just seems like a way to get famous.
That's one example. It's one of the things I talk about is, there's a lot of charlatan marketers out there. It's one of the reasons I got into business in the first place, Alex, is I'm a seeker. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you are as well. I look for books to read, to learn all the time. I look for courses to take, conferences to attend. I have coaches. I'm part of masterminds. I'm a seeker. I'm looking for information. I'm looking for ways to improve. I'm looking for ways to get better. But the only way that you can learn about who are the good people and who are the not so good people is, well, you're going to have to learn it the hard way. Like I have taken so many courses, hired so many service providers that never delivered for me. Never. I learned something from all of them, don't get me wrong, but I never got a good return on investment. And I think if you're looking at this, the first thing you got to see is, first of all, does this person that's saying all this, do they have, a track record? Do they have people that have worked with them, real people that can say, yeah, I've worked with this person, I've got a result? I think that's an important thing to do. Secondly, the question you got to ask yourself is, what they're saying something that really makes sense? Do they understand the problem, or are they just spouting a bunch of BS? So if you're really going to be a thought leader, you need to understand a person's problem. So for example, myself, I work with a lot of coaches and consultants. And one of the things I can say to you is that when I speak to them, I ask them a lot of questions. And the questions that I ask are directed to show them, as well as elicit information from me, that I understand their problem. So one of the things I'd ask somebody, if they're, sitting with me, is I ask them, what's your message? Who do you help? What's the problem you solve? If they can't answer those questions well, I'll tell them, listen, the fact that you're not very clear about the answers to these questions means that the marketplace is not clear about how you can help them. And usually when I have this type of conversation with somebody, a light bulb goes off in their head and they go, oh, wow, that's amazing. I got it. I had another client. He was a fitness coach. You were talking about health and fitness. And when I met him, this guy was broke. He had 7 clients. He made like $1,200 a month. And when he came to see me, he said, look, I need help. I need to get clients. And I go, okay, well, what do you do for people? I go, well, I'm a trainer, whatever they want. I'll train them with weights. We can do yoga, we can do whatever. And I'm like, no, dude, that's not going to work. He said, okay. You know what? I work with doctors. I'm like, where did that come from? He goes, well, doctors have a lot of money. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. He says, no, I'm going to work with doctors. So he tried it. And in 6 months, he got like 2 clients. Didn't work. And I told him, his name was Dan. I said, Danny, that's not working. And he said, okay, I'm going to work with cardiologists. I'm like, what? Why cardiologists? He goes, they make more money than doctors. I'm like, oh my God, Danny, that's not going to work. You can't just throw out a group of people because they have money. You need to actually know something about the problems they face. No, I'm going to do it. He got 0 cardiologist clients. But during this time, he met a guy who had a missing leg, right? Missing limb. He was a Paralympian. This guy lost it in a childhood accident. So when Danny was young, not Danny, when this client of his, Wilson, when he was young, he lost his leg, in a bad accident. It was terrible. But he became an Olympic athlete, and he started working with Danny. And within a short while, he was doing great. He started winning medals. So Danny comes to me one day in one of our coaching sessions and he goes, Nicky, oh my God, I'm so foolish. I go, what do you mean? Why are you saying that? He said, you've been trying to tell me, stop trying to go after just the money. Try to really help people. And I wasn't listening. And I said, yeah, it's true. You weren't. He said, you know what? Though I really want to help people with missing limbs. I think I can help them. I know how to help them. I've been working with this guy. That's what I want to do. I said, that's a great idea, Danny. You go do that. Anyways, he started to get out there and approach people with missing limbs. And brother, within 6 weeks, he signed up 400 clients. 400 clients. He went from making like no money, like $1,200 a month, to making over $100,000 a month. Why? Because first and foremost, he approached a group of people no other trainers wanted to approach because everyone thought, hey, they don't have limbs, they can't work out. Secondly, he not only did that, he also gave them a message that was well beyond, hey, I'm going to help you get fit. His message was, hey, listen, you can do anything an able-bodied person can do. And I'm going to help you and I'm going to show you how you can do it. And that was a powerful message because you can just imagine someone with a missing limb. They probably don't feel good about having a missing limb. They probably wish they had all their limbs. And they probably don't feel that they could do anything an able-bodied person can do. But they want to. And so when Danny gave them that message, that's why he got so many people so quickly.
That's a really powerful story. And it really does kind of raise the bigger question, which is how do people find their purpose? Because it sounds like in this case, Danny found a purpose of somebody that he could help, he wanted to help, it really resonated with him, and he accidentally got the experience that allowed him to be able to do that. If somebody starts from zero and they don't quite have the answers yet, what process would you recommend to them?
That's a good question. I'll tell you something. I don't believe it was an accident that this came to Danny. I believe that everything in life happens to us. For us, not to us. I believe that God intended Danny to find this path. And he needed to go through some adversity before he could find it. He went through the adversity. He found the path. It was brought before him, I believe, by God, and he was aware enough to see it and seize it. And I think that's happening for us every day, all the time, for you, for me. God is always putting the messages that he wants us to hear in front of us. The question is, are we aware enough and awake enough to listen? And I think that's the number one thing everybody's got to do. I don't think it's a process. I think it's a belief that you are a child of God. You were put here on earth to do great things. And no, it's not meant to be an easy life. And yes, bad people exist, evil exists, but so does good. So does God. And if you believe that and you step forward from that, some amazing things happen. The other day, I'm going to tell you something. My lady friend, my girlfriend, she's a very wonderful woman, but until very recently, she wasn't particularly a religious or spiritual woman, very, very limited belief. Let's put it at that. But she was going through a tough time with her mother. She was trying to do something for her mother. Her mother's in a home, and she just that day just felt like nothing was going right. So she said to God, if you exist, I need help doing this thing for my mother. Show me a sign. Show me a sign. And it was to get her, access to a certain type of help, right? And not 5 minutes later, she got a phone call from an individual that offered that exact help that her mother needed. And when that happened, she got the help. She was able to help her mother in this fashion. A big stress got lifted off of her. She called me to tell me the story. She said to me, I've never been much of a believer before, but I turned to God and I asked him for a sign, and he gave me one. And I say this to you. You want to find your purpose, you want to find your path, ask for it. Ask for God to show it to you. And then be ready when it comes in front of you to see it.
And then on that very hopeful note, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been very enlightening, and I hope you can join us again next time.
Alex, thanks for having me on the show. God bless you, my
Thank you
friend.
so much, Nicky. This has been another episode of The Otherweb. Join us next time for more discussions on news, media, information, and everything in between.